Hi, I'm Everett, and today I'm going to cover some maintenance items, just some things to check before you go to the field with your 1910 air cart and your seeding tool. So just some wear items and some things to keep an eye on. We'll just start at the front and kind of work our way top and bottom towards the back of the machine. Beginning of the season, connect our hoses up. Make sure electrical and our hydraulic hoses are connected and in good condition, out of the way, not going to get pinched. To walk through it, we do have SCV1 raise and lower, SCV2 is your fold, and then we've got our fan on this particular case on SCV5, probably so it's out of the way. You don't have to worry about hitting that on your console. Power beyond, we've got our hydraulic drive, and then we have case drain as well as load sense. So we've got our hydraulic set up there in good working order. Tank pressure gauges. So with the fan off, they should be right in the middle here on 0. There is a little screw here in the front that if your gauge is reading off of center with everything turned off, you can adjust and zero out that needle. When you turn your fan on, if your needle goes to the left, it'll say lid open, or to the right, check gauge. Some things to look at: there's a little hose that connects to the back of this and it goes up into your tank, and there's a ladder. We can go up here and look in. Sometimes the weight of the product in the tank pushes on that line, lapses it. Possibly a zip tie is just squeezing it too tight. So a couple things to check. We do have bin level sensors, 3 of them. Here's your top one, your middle, and your bottom. So something else to check there if maybe your tank level sensors aren't working on the monitor. While we're up here, you want to make sure your rubber seal on your tank lid is clean and in good shape. You know, if it gets some residue or something, some buildup on there, dirt or seed product, just wipe that clean. That way it makes a good seal with your lid. Another adjustment for your tank lid is this peg right here, and this slot should be aligned. It should read just like that when you're not putting any pressure on the handle. So to make that adjustment is just back here. On this, you can adjust your handle up and down so that reads in there. So you just push it down to lock it. So make sure your tank lid seals and tank lid adjustment is correct. We're walking back along this is your conveyor or your auger. This pin that it rides on as you're going through the field. You know, you'll get vibration or, you know, hitting bumps. Keep an eye on this pin, you know, make sure it's not getting worn into, and check that periodically. Working along, I'll go ahead and I'll go ahead and pull one of the meters out. So we release that. We'll pull our meter out. So a couple things to check. You know, you want to make sure that your tuning rings and your meters are in good shape. They're not getting all chewed up. Your brushes down in the bottom, make sure that they're in good shape, as well as the end plates. Sometimes we need to take that apart and clean it. This is a hydraulic drive cart with section command, so it's recommended to pull these meters out periodically. They actually say daily, but at least, you know, if you're not going to do it daily, just be aware that if you start having gate command issues, the monitor pops up and says gate open when commanded closed, or gate closed when commanded open. There might be a seed or a piece of fertilizer that's holding that that gate from closing or popping open. So as you can see, that's how it's working in there. So gate closed, gate open, and this is what opens and closes your gate. It's controlled by these actuators on the back. This is your section command, and it just pushes these gates open and close. So we want to make sure this meter's clean and in good working order. This is your sensor. So you've got a rod that runs down through here, and it's just reading. You can see there's a little like magnet right here on that gate, on the back of that gate. So when that comes away from it, that sensor rod knows it. So when you start to get alarms, pull your meter out, blow it out, clean it, and put it back in. 2 handles here, that'll shut the product off. It'll shut the gate and the product won't be able to fall down. Back here, we've got our wheel speed sensor. On the left wheel of the cart, we've got our tuning ring here that it reads on. Just make sure that's adjusted, not rubbing on that, or you know, it doesn't have mud or something on it making a false reading, or not allowing it to read. Just make sure you keep your gap. We'll get to the back of the cart. It's always a good idea, double check your height sensor connection. So if you have a height sensor on both the front and the rear rank, in some instances we do have that, depending on how your tool's set up. So make sure you have the right height sensor connected, whether it's the front height sensor or the rear one, for the rank that you're using. Hydraulic connections, electrical. Check your safety chain, have that connected. We don't want this coming loose going down the road. And then another very important thing is check your primary hoses here coming off the tool. Check these hose clamps, make sure they're secured on there, as well as back here where it mates up to the tool. A wear point here sometimes gets overlooked. Anywhere one of our delivery hoses makes a bend, that's a wear point, so that seed's blowing along and it's hitting this side of that hose all the time. So, you know, anywhere your hoses bend, make sure that they're, you know, not soft. You shouldn't be able to squeeze these hoses together. So as they get worn, they'll collapse. Make sure you haven't turned and a tire has hit them and kinked them. That goes for your hoses back here going to the row unit as well. So anywhere it comes along a bend, you know, just push on that and make sure it's a good solid firm hose. Maybe give them a little tug. You want some slack on these hoses if you have to replace them, as this row unit goes up and down. If it's too tight, it'll pull that hose apart, and then seed will be blowing out on the ground, and sometimes you might not notice it. So just do a walk around and check that. Another thing, check your frame bolts anywhere where the tool meets up with your frame. That's a wear item. As you turn, it might not be raised up out of the ground all the way. Might break a bolt or something, so check that ahead of time. Right here we have shims along this frame, so if you get a gap, there are shims that we can put in there, and we can keep this a nice tight fit. Check our caster wheels going through the field. You know, sometimes hitting ditches or these inner ones in transport as you're pulling on and off of roadways for other vehicles. You know, we get some bouncing and everything, so make sure that we don't have any cracks and that we're keeping these, you know, greased every once in a while. Give them some grease so we're not wearing out them bushings in there. And then check our row units. They've already talked about these in one of our other videos, but just walk around and check your, you know, your disc blades, measure them at the beginning of the season, check your gauge wheels, your press wheels, your springs that control it, and then as well as your little U clamp or whatever your tension piece that holds your seat boot over against the blade. Check that. This shouldn't just sit there and flop. It should hold over against your disc blade. So just a few things to check as you're going around, as well as check your seat boots as well. Make sure they're in good working order at the beginning of the season, and then give it a little bit of grease and your air seeder will be ready to go. I hope the videos that we provided you today was some help to you. If you have any more questions, please contact your local Landmark dealer.